All right, welcome back. It's been a little bit, but we have another refresher of our special guest from almost 2 years ago now. But this is Pastor Chad Tardie. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. Thank you. Awesome to be on as always.
Well, a lot has happened since we last had you on. I don't. You take a few minutes, catch us up on kind of what's been going on.
Man, a few minutes to quick catch up. So yeah, we've been here for just over 8 months now. September, and here it is, the last day, almost the last day. Tomorrow's the last day of May. So June starts on Monday, and it's been incredible. It's been a lot. It's been busy. Um, we have had an amazing opportunity just to kind of get here, um, observe a lot, just to kind of learn, right? We have so much to learn, not just, living in a different place, but, it's a different culture. We have two other languages that we're bouncing between every day and trying to pick up and learn and grasp it. And then not just that, but all of our different ministries. From day one, our mindset was like, let's just jump in. Let's just jump in and serve and observe it and see what they're doing, see how things are going. Get to know our staff, get to know the people, get to know the churches. So we've had a lot of opportunity to learn. Some days we learn a lot. Other days we just like, man, whatever. We got so much more to learn. But at the end of the day, one of the funny things that Amy and I say every day almost is, what was that? Just so much unknown still for us, and learning things, and how do we handle this or how do we do that. So that's kind of a daily saying in this house at the end of the day, which is good because it means that we don't think we have it figured out yet. So we try to stay humble on that.
And just as a reminder, you want to remind everyone where we are and what we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in Himani, Dominican Republic, again, right on the border of Haiti. So our ministry ministers to Dominicans and Haitians, just due to the still unrest in Haiti, civil unrest, and just overrun by gangs. And living here, we've seen just how bad it is, and hearing people's lives being turned upside down because of what's going on there. So yeah, we ministered a very fairly large amount of Haitians, refugees here, and Dominicans. We're with RTS Missions. Kapow, right there. Yeah. And, I absolutely love what RTS Missions does and who they are, not just because we're missionaries with them, but getting to see it as a short-term missionary for a week at a time, or 2 weeks, was really neat. But getting to live daily what their mission is, getting to live that out, has been an incredible honor that we have the opportunity to do this. So that's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen it, we had the person who owns and started RTS, Greg Shepard. We have a podcast with him in it. Make sure you go check that out. But all right, so we know where we are, kind of understand. Walk us through once again what that process looked like from the last podcast. So about October of 2024 till coming here. What did that process, that transition look like?
I was just talking about refugees having their lives turned upside down. It kind of felt that way for that year for us, especially at October until we moved last September in 2025. Trying to raise funding to get here. We had our idea how we should be doing that and trying those things, and they've worked for others, and we're like, oh, surely it'll work for us too. Just to find out that those certain things God didn't want to provide in those ways, and it left us many days and throughout the whole process, if I'm being real, just truly leaving it in His hands. We're taking the steps necessary, being faithful in those steps, and understanding this is His calling on our lives. So getting our support was that was interesting. That was something that's new. That was new to us, and just difficult to. It's difficult when you can go to work, and that's been your whole life, just going to work and knowing you're coming home with a paycheck. And if you needed more money, you can just go work more. You can work some overtime, pick up a second job if you needed to. Getting support's different. It gave us a whole different acknowledgement on God's provision, and that if He is calling you, that if we're faithful, He's faithful. It's all His at the end of the day. So that He taught us a lot through that process. He also showed us an incredible amount of love through our sending church, Creekside. We had a informational night, and we had to pull out a ton more chairs and a ton more table, and we just prayed that God would stretch the food. But man, so many people just in our community since we've been in Florida showed up that night. That was incredible, and encouraging just to see kind of affirmation of God's calling on our family's life to come here to be missionaries. You have your own doubts sometimes, but when you have a lot of people just kind of lifting you up, praying over you, supporting you in so many different ways to get you here to where we're sitting, man, that was just God showing up in ways that we just are still today amazed at and humbled at.
For sure. Those were some incredible nights, and especially that one. I mean, like you said, we had to panic, run, and grab more tables and chairs, and it's like, I don't think we have enough room and enough food, and God provided.
Mm-hmm. As always.
He does. And sometimes it's last minute. It's not the way you expect, but He always comes through, and it's just incredible. Definitely tested some faith. All right, so we raised the support. We get on a plane, September, 20th, I think it was?
September 20th.
And we head here.
Yep.
What was the first month like? What would you say were some of the transitional challenges that you faced?
Some of the transitional challenges. Well, we were blessed with a house to stay in here, a nice 3-bedroom home, and it is a very nice home. Don't get me wrong. Especially here in a country that there's not a whole lot, so we're blessed with that. But there was just issue after issue, so it felt like for the first month it was chasing electrical issues, plumbing issues. Our cistern on the roof was leaking. We get rain, and we had to set up every empty pot and pan and Tupperware container on the floor to catch water. So that was a constant. It was something else every day, it seemed. So that was a bit of a challenge, but the house wasn't really lived in a whole lot from the time that RTS took this property over. So just being able to kind of get up on the front end of it, so it wasn't like a constant thing, and some maintenance things. And then of course, just it's a new country. Going down the street 2 minutes to Publix isn't an option here, so we go to the market and we go figure that out. So trying to figure out the best places to get some groceries, which usually it's not just one stop, it's usually 5, sometimes 6 to get our food. And then you go to the market. It's an open air market, and it's insane, and there's people screaming at you to go buy their stuff. And we have the reality that we're not in the States anymore, and people see the color of our skin and they're like, oh, they have a lot of money, so let's upcharge them more. So for the first little bit, we were blessed to have some of our staff come with us and kind of help us out, and if they would charge us something, our staff would be like, no, you're not doing that. Like, this is the amount, this is what you charge. So that helped us out a lot, but it was still stressful to figure out. Even getting meat or chicken, we go to the market and we find our beef, and you walk up to a counter and there's the cow's head sitting on the counter, and that's the cow that they're going to cut up and serve you that day.
And chickens, they slice the neck right in front of you.
Yep.
And you see all the chickens in the pen, and there's a pool of blood. It's an experience.
Yeah, so, fortunately for us, we had a little bit of experience stateside. We grew up raising our own chickens, and we hunted for our own food, so I understood that. And the kids, Devin and Alana and Amy, we did our own chickens as well, somewhat. So we kind of, you know what to expect, but that's every day. I mean, we go to the market to not, it's a chicken store basically where we go for the chickens, but we get the whole chicken that's gutted and cleaned at least, and then Amy brings them home and butchers them, quarters them, does all the, separates all the different parts, and we'll get multiple chickens at once and then freeze them so we can just make a meal out of it when it's time to eat. So some culture, I guess, if you want to say culture shock, I guess I could say it's some culture shock. And it was overwhelming just going to the market and walking through, trying to figure out what to buy or who to buy from. But one of the cool things through that is one of the big things for us is not just like being able to live here, but building relationships. And we've had people at the market that you start to get relationships with, so they treat you fairly and they see you and they give you a hug and they're excited to see you. So it's not just like Americanos. They see us, and now we're not so much of a sideshow everywhere we go because we've been here for a while. We're part of the community, so they know they're getting to know us better, and that's been a pretty neat blessing to see.
It has, and the joy when people see us coming now and they know us, it's just like it's really cool to experience that.
Quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, people seeing us and recognizing us. So there's a family that we go up to. They live in the mountains in Laku. You help lead her to salvation, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. But she has a bunch of kids. The kids weren't able to go to school until just this last half of this year. So we used to see them all the time. So whenever we go up in the mountains, walking around, going house to house, doing food distribution, anything like that, they would follow us everywhere. And these little guys were just amazing. I mean, they're walking through the mountains barefoot. We're crying because it's hot and we got shoes on and we're getting scraped by thorns on our legs, but these kids are running around the side of the mountain barefoot, taking us around. We hadn't seen them a whole lot because they had been in school. So our child advocates, our teachers for his kids on Fridays, well, 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think, not Fridays. But they go into the schools and we get to teach the gospel in their schools, and we get to help teach reading and different life skills, right? So we went one day to go help out, Amy and I walked across the campus, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I turned and I saw these two little boys running full blast at me and like literally jumped and like dove and just grabbed me so hard. It was the two boys that would walk around, and I hadn't seen them for 2 months maybe, just because they've been in school. But those are the kinds of relationships, like Devin was saying. It's pretty cool when you go to places and these people are recognizing you, and they love you. They genuinely do, because you're trying to know them and hang out with them and love on them and their families. So that was just one example, but yeah, that was really neat.
And you don't get to see this on a short-term trip. When you're here for a week, you see people once and then it's kind of over. But if you come again on another week-long trip, maybe a year later, you might see the same people and they'll recognize you. But living here, you see it so much more because we're here all the time. And it's really special for sure. And that's a really cool moment.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the school.
Yes.
You guys that's one of our RTS's things is his kids, which we have a school on our property. Want to walk us through a little bit of what that looks like?
Yeah. So we have, it's basically, it's a private school. So unfortunately, just due to the situation here in the Dominican, they won't let Haitian kids come into the schools unless they have, they're legally here with paperwork and stuff like that. So the kids who don't have that luxury, I guess, can't go to school. They can't get any kind of education. We want these kids to have some sort of a leg up in life and have the opportunity to better themselves and have some life skills that they can take. So we do have a His Kids ministry. It's a school for the Haitian kids Monday through Friday. We have child ambassadors, so they're teachers, but they're not just teachers. They care for these kids and their families. So they do school Monday through Fridays, and then in the afternoons they're spending time in the public schools here, or they're going to those kids' houses and doing like wellness checks on them and their families. If there's kids that are struggling, they follow up with them in the afternoons to see if everything's okay at home. We have 5 different classes. Somewhat is divided by age, but it's also divided by ability, I guess, depending on your reading level or math level. It's broken up. So they do their schooling, and then at the end of every day at noon, we cook a meal. So we cook rice and spaghetti and sausage and different things with chicken and so they can have some protein, so they can get a meal. A lot of these families, one of the reasons we do the food program, his food, is because a lot of these kids don't know if they're going to eat that day when they go home. So when they leave, they bring their own bowl, and they bring their own cup, and they get a bowl of food, and then they get a clean cup of water or fill up a water bottle. And we've seen kids start the program that are very malnourished, orange hair, skinny, broken. Mm-hmm. You can see it in their face, they're broken. And, they come for a little while, and you can see the change. You can see their hair losing the orange, becoming dark again, and they're starting to put some weight on, and they show up and they have smiles on their faces. So that is a really cool opportunity with his kids, and giving them an education to take with them after they grow up and out of school.
Yeah. Speaking of, so this summer, you want to tell us a little about the program we have going on for the VBS?
Yeah, it's a summer camp that we have. We're doing it again this year. We did it last year. It's a three separate weeks summer camp, and this is a good opportunity. I'm going to a little plug here. If you look at the RTS website, we're looking for people to actually donate for this camp specifically, because it does leave a huge impact on all these kids. So we do 3 different groups, and these are by ages. We have 2 younger groups and then an older group. And then as you get to the older group, I think that the 2 older groups, they do overnight for the week for 3 nights. So the money, it comes to like $33 a kid for a kids camp. And they do tons of games. They do Bible. It's kind of basic VBS. Think big VBS. So they do activities. They do Bible lessons. They do games. They do crafts. They do all kinds of things like that. So that's coming up here in July. So if that's something that any of you would be interested in helping to sponsor and donate a little bit to, you can go check it out on the RTS Missions website.
And I'll have that linked in the description for everyone to look at.
Yeah. It's a huge blessing to these kids, and we feed them the meals during the day. We give them snacks. It's just a genuine good time when all of our staff too can just be a bunch of big kids and hang out and have fun with them too.
For sure. So that's awesome. You mentioned food distribution. You want to go into that just a little bit? Talk about kind of what you've done with the ministry since taking it over, and then talk about the progress that you've seen.
Yeah, food distribution, his food. We partner with an organization called Feed My Starving Children. And we have these packs that are called manna packs, and it's basically a sealed pack of rice and nutrients that they are lacking in this region. So we get those shipped. We buy them. We purchase them as an organization to have them shipped here. It's been an incredible program as long as RTS has been doing it. Again, I mentioned earlier, a lot of these kids and families have no idea if they're going to eat tomorrow or that night. So it's a substitution. It's not to fully feed a family for a month, but it's to help them out. It's not going to sustain a family for a full month, and we go by the amount of people who live in the home. So if you have a mother and father and 3 kids, that's 5 people. There's an equation to figure out how many manna packs they get per month. So we have a monthly pickup point. We do a few of those here on our campus, and then we do the others at local churches that allow us to go in there and do it. So we do house-to-house evangelism every day. That is the heartbeat of RTS. Relational evangelism. So it's not just kind of knocking on doors, yelling that they need to get saved, and then leaving. Want to know these people. We want to know their stories. We want to know their life. And through that, we get to share the good news of the gospel to them. So as we're doing that, we meet these families and we see who's the most in need here. If we're being real, we can probably say everybody here is in need somewhat, but we find the neediest of the needy, and we can get them into our program if they hit certain things, if they can't get a job, if they're taking care of elderly family members. That's common, so you'll have 3-4 generations in the same home. But with that, one of the things that we always have to be careful for as a missions organization is not enabling anybody. We want to be able to help, but we don't want people to become dependent on what we do and what we bring. And we also don't want people to become entitled. That's just something that's been on my heart since before we moved here. And that's been something that's just been on our radar constantly being here with our ministries. Are we enabling people to become dependent on what we bring? So if tomorrow RTS doesn't exist anymore, are these families going to be okay? So through years and through time, and just like anything, people become entitled and they kind of say, well, you owe it to us, you're bringing me food, and we don't ask a lot. We definitely don't ask a lot from them. We ask them to be on time. We do a short 15-minute Bible study, sharing the gospel each time. They need to be respectful to everybody, one another, and then our staff. Just little things like that. Bring in their own container so they can carry the bags home at the end of the food distribution. And sometimes just as time goes on, people start taking advantage of things, and then start disrespecting people slowly, and then the next thing you know, you just got a bunch of people disrespecting each other, or they can't show up on time and don't respect time and don't just those kinds of things. So we've implemented some things to help, and we've seen a lot of good from it. We want to respect their time, so when we say we're going to start at 9, we want to make sure we're there before 9. So when they're there at 9, we're ready to get going. And then also just being mindful that a lot of these people are traveling. They're traveling by foot from the mountains. Immigration is everywhere. We see them all the time here. So they're running away from immigration. A lot of them have to sleep in the mountains at night, can't even sleep at their home because at night immigration is going into homes and taking people to bring them back over to Haiti. So we have to keep these things in our minds and be considerate about about those things too. But yeah, we've seen some improvement, and we've seen people showing up on time, and we've seen people who would just check out during our Bible lessons starting to actually pay attention now. And that's the most thing. I mean, if we're going to do any kind of ministry, if we're not sharing the gospel at it, we're missing it. We do that whenever we get people together. So we've definitely seen some improvement there. I'm excited to see, as God continues to use us in His food, that we are good stewards with what He's giving us to hand out, and that we're taking care of people's, not just their physical need of sustenance of food, but giving them sustenance in God's Word.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to just mention this again. We've had people come on teams and ask us this question: why aren't you giving them more? Right? We have all these boxes and bags of food. Why aren't you giving them enough to take care of them? Yeah. And what would be your answer to that question?
Yeah, the best answer, it's happened a few times, and people are kind of distraught. They're like, you got this food, why aren't you giving them more? Like, they're just bothered by it. And I get it. I totally get their concern, and I understand their concern. But here's the bottom line. The idea is to help them. and not give them everything they need. When we start taking away their need to find a job, their need to work, their need to provide for their family, we're actually doing them a disservice. And that's what I said about the like entitlement. Like, we don't want them to have to need RTS to survive to be able to eat. We give them some stuff to kind of subsidize a little bit of food for them for the month, to help them, because so it's not going to be a full, hey, we're going to give you food for 30 days. We're going to give you food so you can, with what you're bringing in for income, you can still, take the ownership of taking care of your family. And we don't want to pull that from them, because now we're tying their hands. We're disabling them, because like I said, if something happens and his food does not exist anymore, we're going to have a lot of families who just don't know where to turn next. And we want to walk through that with them. So once they're in the program, it's not just like a one and done thing, you're in it. But if they get a job while they're in the program and they can start providing for their family, like, we take all those things into account on how long they stay in our program too. So every 6 months roughly, we go through and we visit families. We're actually doing that right now, visiting all of our families in our food distribution to make sure we have the right amount of numbers in their family. So has anybody moved away, or have you taken any other family members in that moved here, or have jobs been found, or did somebody lose a job in the home, so we can adjust the amount of food that they get accordingly, so they're still getting what they need, but they're still taking the ownership to provide for their families.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to talk a little bit about the medical side of things. What does that look like right now? What are some things that we are doing for our medical ministry?
His care. Yeah. So there wasn't a whole lot going on when we first moved here. 6 years ago, Amy got into homeopathy. She didn't know why, but here we are using it every day, helping people out. So his care, we do basic clinical things. So we do wound care, which is much needed here as we've seen more and more just the need of just basic wound care. But also being able to help with bacterial infections, fungal infections, blood pressure, cholesterol, so many different things. So with homeopathy, it's natural. You can reproduce it, so you can actually recreate it once you have the remedy created. Not going to get too deep into the weeds with it, but man, we opened the clinic here one day a week, and we were able to partner with a church in need in the area, and we were seeing 30 people, 60 people in a morning. From like 9 to 12, we were seeing 30 people plus, which is incredible. And it's been really neat in the time that we've been here. We were so busy and we were getting so many people coming in that now we're actually slowed down a little bit, and we're seeing those people and their diseases have been healed. And we know ultimately, guys, homeopathy is just another form. So we have, pharmaceuticals, and we have homeopathy. A lot of people do like oils and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, God's the healer. So when we have a patient come in, every single patient we see, we try to figure out their physical needs, what's going on, and helping them that way. But we get to pray over them, and we get to pray the healing power of God over these people. So we've been seeing some really neat stuff with his care. We actually created basically almost like a patient portal, because we've had so many patients come in, and then they would come in again and again, and it was a way for us to be able to track the work that we're doing, the remedies that we're giving them, what their symptoms were, if things are getting better or worse anyway, and then putting their family members and their children on those. So Devin's got to learn that, and he's doing a really good job helping us out weekly with that. That's been really cool. But yeah, we've been able to help quite a few people. And then last month we had a medical team come, ear, nose, and throat specialists. We saw 510 patients in a week, and every single one of those patients was seen for their physical needs, but they heard the gospel message, and we saw 40 salvations in a week, because they were seen, they were loved, they were cared for, they were heard. We listened to them. So God's doing some pretty incredible things and using RTS as a means to doing His work.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that's been going on is one of the kids who came to get cysts. Was it a cyst?
He had a really bad infected abscess on the side of his leg.
Yeah, and they operated on it, but they had to keep going back and checking on him. And the team left, so my parents and myself, we would go check on him pretty much daily, and we would dress the wound and give him medicine and just talk with him for a little bit. And fast forward, he preached at a church last week, and that kid went to that church and sat next to my mom, and he got to hear my dad preach, and it was just really special. So, and we've gotten to see his wound be completely healed, and now there's skin growing back on it, and it's just incredible. So we're seeing real things happen, real healing, real, like, God is working through us and through RTS missions and through our medical. So that's been a really cool thing. We also have an update. I am going back to the States, and I will be getting trained in optometry with a mission organization called iTech. It's based out of Denellen, Florida. So I'm going to be trained in eye care. It should be really a neat opportunity. I'm going to be purchasing a kit. We're raising money for it now. I have a GoFundMe. I'll probably add that link here. And so we're raising money for it. We're going to bring a starter kit back. It comes with 200 pairs of glasses and lenses and stuff. And we're going to start doing that. So Mondays we have the clinic here. Tuesdays we go to the churches. And hopefully we can get some eyes taken care of. Maybe some grandparents who can't see far will get to see their grandkids for the first time clearly. And kids who play baseball will get to see that baseball coming, and maybe they'll go on to be MLB pros. You never know. You never know. So those little things can make a huge difference. And vision is huge, and it's also a great way to share the gospel. Jesus came, He gave sight to the blind, right? The blind man jumped around and praised God because he could see. And I think it's an amazing opportunity we have there. So be praying for that. And if you guys want to support, I'll have the GoFundMe link. So that would be much appreciated.
Let me ask you a question. Are you done with that?
Yeah, sure.
So you've heard about my experience, my time here. What have been the big takeaways for you, and some of the biggest challenges or praises since you've been here as well?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think for me, one of the biggest eye-openers and biggest heartbreakers, we'll call it, is just the spirit of legalism that is here in this area. One of my biggest experiences that just kind of rocked me a little bit was one of our first weeks here. We were doing food distribution at a local church, and we didn't know. We showed up in our shorts and work shirt and get ready to lug these heavy boxes and go sit in a hot church and then pass out the stuff. You don't want to wear jeans to do that. It's hot. So we wore shorts, and we show up, and the pastor looks at my dad and I through our translator, says, "Hey, they can't go stand up front because they're in shorts. They got to stand out back. They can't go out front." On a Thursday morning, not anything related to the church. It's an RTS thing. We're just using their church to do it. And I'd like to think it was a spiritual anger, right? A righteous anger. But I was heated, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Pants don't make you a Christian. If they do, then, well, I guess I'm not a very good Christian. But just stuff like that you see all the time, where if you're not wearing the appropriate clothing, you're not allowed into this church. If you are just all these little things that are so legalistic and so harmful for us Christians as we go to evangelize, because it creates hurt, it creates barriers, it creates walls that we have to then try to break through But in order to break through, we're going up against all the local churches who are telling them they need to do this, when we know that's not the truth, right? The Bible never says this. This is a man-made, instituted thing, just like we see in the Bible times with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, Judaizers, right? You guys have to do this, otherwise you're not a very good Christian. And it's really, really sad to see, and that's been one of my biggest challenges, even when you're just sharing the gospel and evangelizing. It's such a tough thing to go up against.
Yeah.
It just creates, again, just so many more challenges, and it just has created so much hurt, so much people, oh, I don't go to church anymore because I don't have the clothes for it. And then if you don't go to church here, they think they're not a Christian, which we know that's not true. We're saved once we accept Christ. And church is just a place where we can go to learn more about God and grow together as a body of believers. But that's not what saves us. So it's just all these things that we have to go up against.
Yeah, it's generation after generation after generation, just being fed the lies. It's just heartbreaking.
Another challenge, this one's not nearly as heavy, but there's a lot of loud music, a lot of loud sounds, right? One of my hardest experiences was going to the market one of the first times, because it's right on the road. There's so many people yelling, and then you got motorcycles driving by, and it is just overload of sound and stuff happening. Super overwhelming. So someone who, again, I shopped and worked at Publix, I was used to things being pretty chill. It's a whole new experience, and it's one that is incredibly overwhelming. And then even some nights we'll hear music until 12, 1 a.m. So those are different challenges for me. Being someone who is a little bit more sensitive to a lot of that noise, or you go to a church and you gotta wear earplugs, and sometimes even that's not enough.
Yeah.
It's so loud. Just a different culture, and adapting to the culture has definitely been probably my biggest challenge. One that we expected, but I'd say it was even harder than we expected in some ways.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like, some of the things that you're doing as a director, and some of the things that, what's your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, my day-to-day, it always starts off with God. Man, my quiet time, my time with God, my devotion time, whatever you guys want to call it or label it, that has become one of the sweetest parts of my day, hands down, because it's usually quiet that early in the morning. I can open the door and I hear the birds and the sun's coming up. It's just a way to start the day off anew, knowing, just putting your petitions at God's feet and listening to what He has for you. But yeah, we do house to house 2 times a day for most days. So Mondays are typically we do clinic for the full day. Tuesdays it's half a day clinic, house to house in the afternoon, and then the rest of the week, Wednesday through Friday, typically house to house, or we're doing food distribution depending on what time of month we are looking at. So we are very busy, and we've like I said, when we got here, we jumped in, and we've been involved every time we go out, every time we do something. So we're at the point now that, just being able to see everything, and being involved in all of our different ministries. I'm trying to pull back a little bit so I can be the director and I can direct, right? So through the first 6 to 7 months, I didn't spend a whole lot of time and effort with the His Kids program, because they run pretty smoothly, and they have some fantastic people down there running that program. But just getting to see it and spending some time with the kids, so I'm finally getting to that point now where I can focus on that a little bit. And we got some stuff that we're working on for the new year. We're wrapping up the school year as we speak. The local schools are doing like their finals. Our school has just a few more weeks left in it. So we're looking on implementing some things with our kids program and food program. One of the things, and just if any of you listening, if you're prayer warriors, I'm just going to ask for some prayer. we've been doing things well here, but we're looking to kind of hit the reset button in some of our ministries and kind of start anew our His Word, so our discipleship and Bible studies. One of the things that's been on our hearts is trying to get all of our different Bible studies on the same curriculum. And the reality is they've been doing a fantastic job going through books of the Bible and kind of teaching expository. But the reality is a lot of the people in our Bible studies need milk still. And it's just difficult for them to really understand and grasp it. So we are starting next week, which is exciting. We're starting some just foundational, how do you know you're saved? Like, let's just start there. Because granted, we do have a lot of believers, but there's some people who are seeking and they're curious and they are coming to our Bible studies. Or the new believers, because of the culture and the background, not really knowing if they're saved or believing that they can lose their salvation because I stopped going to church. So we want them at the end of the study. It's going to be about a 6-month study that all of our Bible studies are going to be doing together to really root their foundation, get those roots deep so we can build off that foundation. So that's a kind of a restart that we're doing there. We're doing some stuff with the His Kids. We're doing a restart with our food program. Not that they were doing bad, but just finding ways that we can maybe improve them. And hopefully the impact, guys, is not what we do. It's them knowing God better. It's everybody having a better belief and trust in who Jesus Christ is to them. It's about Jesus being their foundation. It's about Jesus being our hope. That's what it's about. And we really want everything to be focused on those things. And then, just praying that we continue to develop new teachers and new leaders throughout the community. We already have some that have stepped up and started helping with Bible studies, which has been amazing. But there's so many to reach and so many who need the Word. And we just don't have the staff to do it all. So we need strong believers to be able to help along in those things. So yeah, if you could be praying in this season of kind of like reset, that God would open those doors and God would lead us in all of our decisions.
Yeah, I haven't really asked this yet. I was kind of waiting, but you asked me this question, so I'm going to ask it to you. What has been your biggest challenge for these 8 months?
My biggest challenge for these last 8 months. So coming in as a director, we try to implement things that help, even with our staff. And we all know when you start implementing new things, new change is different, change is difficult. If I'm being real, I mean, change for us coming here has been extremely difficult. There's been a lot of times where I feel really alone. I don't have the same support group that I had back in the States with my work friends that were Christians and my church friends and my pastors there every day. So there's a lot of days you kind of feel alone, even though I have my son and wife here, like I have staff here, but you still feel alone. I'm never going to be Dominican or Haitian, and I knew that before coming, so that wasn't a surprise. But there's a lot of days you just kind of feel alone. You don't hear. Girls are different. Girls will kind of like call and check in and text more often. Guys are just kind of guys. We don't do that much, but that's been a challenge for sure. And then on the other side, implementing schedules and all of our staff, and we have fantastic staff, and just trying to help them with knowing what their job responsibilities are and then helping them to make a schedule so they're not overwhelmed and you can just break it up through days and stuff like that. And honestly, a lot of the times it's just not received well. You're kind of looked at sometimes as the bad guy, but at the end of the day, it's not. I'm actually making your day easier. So it comes to our heart posture, making sure my posture is right in the way that I'm presenting it, and also the way that their heart posture is and receiving it, that it's out of love and it actually is going to help and not be looked at as like, oh, Pastor Chad, the mean guy here. That I've heard that, I've seen it. It's expected, but then again, I want them to understand the love that's behind it, and that it ultimately is going to help them. So if you don't have organization, what do you have? You have chaos. And I'm trying to help them to see the organization side of it. So that's definitely been a bit of a challenge.
And those are growing pains that are gonna come, right? And you need those growing pains to make progress, because if your body needs that when you're physically growing. If you don't have the pains, then how are you gonna grow? And the same with something like this, where if you're not, taking things apart a little bit and building them back better, you're just gonna end up in the same place. You need to make improvements, and those are hard. Those are hard to try. Changes are hard for everybody. And it's the same here too, just like it is in everywhere. Change is always hard. So, yeah, I'd imagine that is a really big challenge.
We've had been really neat. We have a monthly staff meeting with all of our staff, one Saturday a month, and we get together and we worship together and just kind of go over some business and different things. But one of the things that I dove into was I'm doing a lesson each time we meet on godly character traits. And it's been a lot of fun for me because it's just been a good reminder, what God expects from us, biblically with the character traits, thankfulness, perseverance, honesty, just those different things like that. So I've really had a lot of fun preparing for that, and then being able to speak in those things into our team. And they're easy things to speak into because we all need reminders on it, and it's just kind of keeping it consistent. So it's been such a blessing to be able to pour into our team that way too, on a spiritual standpoint. That's been probably one of my highlights, if I'm being honest, being able to do that side of it. So it's not always business, and it's not always like schedules and job responsibilities, but biblical growth as well as a team. That's more important. So that's been fun.
Another thing that's somewhat new for you is you've gotten a lot of chances to preach. How are you enjoying that? How's that been?
I've loved it. I don't know if the congregations have, but I've enjoyed it. You mentioned it earlier, and just touch on it just for a split second. One of the challenges coming in as a Christian organization is, there are churches that are worried that you're there to steal their congregation away. That's not why we're here. Our calling is to serve along with the churches and come alongside the churches and help. We're not looking to start our church. We're not looking to take anybody away from their churches. Not at all. So we've started doing quarterly pastor meetings with pastors and their wives, and not even meetings, they're a dinner. We prepare a nice meal for pastors and their wives, invite them over, and there's no agenda. We just hang out, right? Just get to know them, know that we're here for them, know that we love them, and we're here to support them. And through those, we're starting to see some doors opening up slowly. We asked them if there's anything that they would like when they come to one of the dinners, what would it be? And a couple of them came to me and said they would love to hear, get some teaching on what marriage looks like for a pastor and their wives. Because as a pastor, it's tough. You're in everyone's lives in your congregation. You're pouring yourself out. You're doing marital counseling. You're doing all kinds of things like that. You don't have anybody pouring into you that same way most of the time. So, man, we did that. We did something, and it was cool. It was received. The pastors were just so thankful, even to the fact that the night wasn't even over, and some of them were coming and asking if I could go preach that to their church. And then God's been opening doors one at a time to go preach at different churches, Haitian churches and Spanish churches. So that's been such a blessing. And I pray that I know that this is God opening doors and opening opportunity to build those relationships. So that's been a big prayer of ours. And I believe that God has opened these doors. So I have a hard time saying no when a pastor asks me to go preach. I enjoy preaching, but I think more than the preaching aspect of it is the relational side of it. And I know he's allowing that to happen.
Yeah. I think as we close, I have one more question. And this is more of something that I think that everyone, as Christians, need to be aware of. But what are some, quick, 5 minutes, what do you think some of the spiritual warfare and challenges that you've seen and faced being here, what does that look like? And some stuff that people might say, that can't be real.
It's real. It's real. We deal with it every day. Sometimes we see it more than others. Some areas we see it more than others. But the biggest, and this is with everybody, is the legalistic side of things. I mean, people think it's just legalism, but that is spiritual warfare. That's the biggest one. We see that with everybody we talk to almost. Man, that is that's a heartbreaking one, because they're so far into the belief, and 95% of the people we talk to, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel it's like 90 to 95% of the people we talk to, it's that same kind of, you can lose your salvation. I used to be a Christian, but I used to go to church, but I don't have clothes anymore that are church worthy, so I can't go to church. 95, it's got to be 95%.
Insane.
So we deal with that every day, and that is spiritual warfare. Satan didn't come to make these huge, turn everything around upside down. He does it very subtly, and those subtle things is what people believe, and the subtle things is what takes your vision off of God only. We say solo Jesus, Jesus only. Salma Jezi, Jesus only. But so many people have all the other stuff, the works, the gifts, all those things. So that we see that all the time. Just 2 weeks ago, we saw voodoo and witchcraft. That's very prevalent here. You got Santeria, voodoo, witchcraft, and you have a combination of 3 or 4 different beliefs and religions. It's all satanic. It's everywhere. We've had people in the streets try to put curses on us. And I will tell you, we know we're children of God. We have the Holy Spirit. They can't touch us. They can't hurt us, but they can set us off a little bit. And we've had situations that we've gotten driving along, and somebody will turn, and the words that come out of their mouth, I don't know what they're saying, but you can tell they're evil. You can feel the evil. And we'll all go that night not sleeping, or just really difficult sleep, weird dreams, disturbing. And we just pray Jesus' blood over it, because thank God by his stripes we're healed, and he protects us, and we don't have to worry about it, but it's real. So we've had quite a few nights that we deal with the evil that's around us, trying to enter, that can't enter, but it's still prevalent.
Yeah.
And we feel it, we see it, and we'll even have situations where all of our staff in the same night dealing with a situation overnight that it's not from God. And we pray a lot. We pray Jesus' blood over our homes, over our families, over ourselves, and over our community, because it is very real. And there's a lot of things I could tell you. Like Devin said, you're just making that up. But when you hear these people's stories and you see it and you live it, there's no way you can make something like that.
Yeah. It's real. Satan is a roaring lion seeking who he can devour. And he attacks you through lies. He attacks you slowly, quietly. But those attacks can just draw you so far away from God. yeah, this was an amazing interview. Is there any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say? Any last remarks?
One more remark. He's going to throw up the info, some links. And then one more plug. September 11th, RTS Missions is having their annual banquet at Creekside Church in Lutz, Florida. You can go online to find out about it too. You can donate. We do this once a year. This is our first year since we've been involved with RTS that we're not going to be there in September for it, which is sad, but we're going to be streaming it live. But if you can go, I would encourage you to go. It's an incredible night. You get to hear incredible stories. There's 3 guest speakers this year. Good food as always. Desserts, the best desserts. And I don't know everything else that Greg and Maria have planned, but I know it's going to be an incredible night. So if you can go, I would encourage you to go. You don't want to miss hearing the stories and hearing what God is doing through RTS Missions. And then if you have any kind of desire to give and help out with what RTS Missions is doing, or even to us, the Tardie family, look, we're just trying to be faithful to what God's calling us to, and we can't do this without you. We can't do this without the support and the prayer, the encouragement of fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, all in the same mission. It's all to point people to Jesus and to see people get saved from death into life. So that's my last plug.
All right, my last plug is make sure if you're not following our Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe, like, share this with somebody you think that they could use this or used to hear this. Follow our Instagram. We post a lot of updates there. It's a lot harder for us to upload these long videos with our Wi-Fi. I'm only doing this because I'm going to the States and I'm going to upload it there. So make sure you guys are following us there. We appreciate all of the support, all of the prayer. We feel it. We need it. So continue praying for us. And we're so thankful for each and every one of you. Thank you if you made it through the whole video. And we hope you learned something new. And thank you again for coming on, Pastor Chad.
Been awesome. Devin.
All right, y'all. Well, this will do it for the day. This will do it for the podcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later.